Welcome back, you filthy exiles. So, we're back to Path of Exile. We are over Diablo 2, Resurrected. And we have 3.16 balance changes. This is part 1. I thought I would talk through this. I had a quick look at this while I was at work today. In, obviously, a break, I will stress. And it looks like we're finally getting buffs. Like, we haven't had buffs for some time. But we're finally getting them. So anyway, let's have a look at this. So this video is going to be a little bit long. I'm mainly going to be reading through this a little bit raw. But, you know, that makes for a more genuine experience in a video. So, fuck it. Let's do that. So it looks like we're looking at a large amount of implementation for ailment. So looking at mitigation, basically in 3.15. The problem is they shit the bed with ailments. And you did not have any real defensiveness against ailments except for a few nodes in the tree. And it looks like they're remedying that. So basically, Purity of Elements is now going to provide you immunity to ailments. So with a lot of builds, we don't really run Purity of Elements. So this is actually going to be quite cool. So Anomalous Purity of Elements no longer grants you and parties. Instead now grants you aura increased effect. So they're making the base Purity of Elements better. And also, yep, not a lot of changes there. Steel Skin now has immunity to bleed. Pretty much everyone's going to be running Steel Skin. Sure as hell will be. Tempest Shield is now a reservation effect. That's actually pretty cool. So that increases Tempest Shield, increases block from my understanding as well. So they're basically treating it similar to an aura or like precision. So that's really cool. Utility Flask now a modifier that grant immunity to an ailment during Flask effect, but lessen the duration on the Flask. So that's just, I guess, balancing that out so you don't get an absolute immunity, but you get less Flask duration. So if you increase Flask duration using enkindling orbs, then you could get around that pretty easily. New tiers of modifiers that give immunity and ailments. So this is where I noticed today we're getting some buffs. Reduced effective curses while you were standing on it. With consecrated ground, it's actually going to be really good for Inquisitors. So you're basically going to be able to be borderline curse immune with the right gearing options. It's actually really good. Basically easy curse immunity. So we're going to see some new and interesting self-flagellation builds potentially in the next league. Rebalance to passive clusters that provide ailment protection. So now grants, between Templar, which Asylum now grants chaos resistance as well as protecting against curses. Between Witch and Shadow, new cluster. So these are new tree clusters from the looks. So that's going to be cool. New Keystone passives added to the center of the tree that causes intelligence to provide no inherent bonus to energy shield, but instead reduces. So they're basically providing in new defensive layering to deal with their changes to ailments. So this is actually really good. This is a really positive step in the right direction. Pantheon Powers are really not that good. So now grants cannot be frozen with Soul of the Brine King. That's actually a really good buff. So basically, you're going from cannot be frozen if you've been frozen recently to cannot be frozen. So basically, Soul of the Brine King's going to give you freeze immunity. So that's going to be good for when you're doing like you're running around opening chests. And as we all know, you get wanged by a bloody chest, you get frozen for too long, and you die. So that's actually really good. Aracali, 10% chance to avoid lightning from damage. So debuffs now expire 20% faster. That's actually really, really good. Increase to chaos resistance over time. Again, really good buff. Soul of Abarrath. It now grants 60% less duration of Ignite. These are actually really good changes. Solar Shikari. Pantheon now grants 50% less duration of poisons. That's actually really, really good. I like that. 50% less duration of poisons. So we can sort of get around the problem. You can get freeze immunity from your gear and basically poison and not, essentially poison inoculation, if you want to call it that, or poison immunity, or poison reduction from your Pantheon, which is really good. So Solar Relicash, moving while bleeding doesn't cause extra damage. That's a fantastic modifier. I like that. Solar Yagul no longer grants 50% reflect. 50% chance to reflect hexes. That's huge. So that's basically similar to like Atziri's Reflection, but built into the tree. That's actually really powerful. 30% reduced curse effect on you from 20%. That's actually, so that would actually result in you could run curse immune builds with that particular. These are actually meaningful changes, which is good. I haven't seen this from POE in a long time. Soul of Garakan, 5% evade, now grants 60% reduced if that's, nobody's really going to use that. Soul of Tukahama, so this gives you, now grants 3% additional physical damage reduction every second, up to a maximum of 9, previously 2. So that's 1% total high cap increase, which is good. Upgraded Soul of Tukahama no longer now grants, while stationary, every second, instead grants you 2% of, like, so basically, yeah, flat 2% instead of 0.5 up to 2% every up to the maximum of 2% once it stacks. So that's a lot more consistent and not sort of, that's giving you that immediate sort of snapback, I guess, response to damage that you might be taking. Crafting modifiers. So Veil mods on body, so you can get better Veiled mods. I read this on tape, pardon me. So they're increasing your avoidance of ailment. Up to 40% reduced effect of chill and shock from 25% from the max. Those are really good changes. Makes it a lot easier to max out ailment resistance. So we're going to have a very defensive league. I feel like this league's going to be a lot easier to spec out and go full tank and do good damage, as opposed to last league, which is where we were basically getting face rolled every 5 seconds. New bench crafts, shields. I like this. Take no extra damage from bleed while moving. That's really useful. 43 up to 43% chaos resist over time. 60% chance to avoid bleed on boots. Really, really useful. Ignition. So basically, you can go max avoidance, ailment avoidance, and bleed avoidance this league. There's a lot of ways to deal with those defense layers. Different bench mods. Rank 2 attributes, we're at rank 3 attributes, so again a lot more attributes. Ailment, stun, and curse mitigation on crafting benches now unlocked in Act 4. So this is really good changes. Updated certain rare item modifiers and added some new ones. Okay, so chance to avoid all elemental status can now roll as a suffix on all shields. So yeah, that was a problem before, so now you can get it on, you know, your strength shield. So if you're going max block gladiator or SST or something like that, you can do that. Chance to avoid up to 35% chance. That's actually really good. Influenced items. We won't go into too much detail. This is for more master crafting, but it's cool. Avoidance value on essences, so they're amping that up to 60% chance from anguish, suffering, and torments instead of 44. So that's a buff. So Bestials buffed. 2 new modifiers, so reduced effective curses, so you could basically stack regular jewels with curse effect reduction. Now it grants a 20% chance, so they're buffing timeless jewel defensiveness, cluster jewels, elegant form, that's buffed. Implicit modifiers of dual corruptions, so again that's really good. 20 to 25% avoidance for any of these modifiers, so ignite, chill, freeze, shock, poison, bleed, or stun. So easy way to get that. Synthesis implicits now grant. This is really good. I really like these changes. Rings of corruption obtaining an implicit cannot be poisoned is now possible earlier in the game. When corrupting a ring, so this has a higher possibility outcome, which is really good. So yeah, you can really use rings in an effective way. I really like this. So basically they're making accessibility to deal with ailments and everything else. Tier of Purity now gives you 5% to all elemental resist. That's okay. Conqueror's longevity dual now grants 10% avoidance to ailments, up from 3%. So they scaled up enemy ailment abilities and damage, and now they're basically handing us a what the fuck? There you go. There's your self-curse builds for your early days, like your Forbidden Rite. Kickazoo rings now grant 60% reduced effective curses. So you don't necessarily need to run 2 Kickazoo rings and the node on the tree anymore to get max curse immunity. You could run one, max out a couple of duels with curse immunity or reduced effectiveness of curse, and be curse immune on pretty much any build that you play with the upsides of the Kickazoo ring. So you could just run one instead of 2. It's really cool. I really like that. All right, Flasks. So, yeah, they really shit the bed on Flasks. So they're adding new modifiers to Flasks that are impactful but brief, and have a duration rather than applying Flask effects. So remove many Flask effects from life and mana Flasks and add the following modifiers. So they're adding Hinder to Flasks. They're adding immunity to Hinder for 17 seconds if wild. That's actually pretty cool. Recovered an additional 40% of life over 10 seconds if used while not on full life. So that's actually really not a bad stat. That's quite good. Utility Flasks are used proactively, but ailment protection modifiers work by reacting to an ailment on you. So replace the ailment. So solution, replace the ailment removal modifier on utility Flasks with one that grants ailment immunity but lessen Flask duration. So that instead of having it for a point in time, like 4 seconds for ailment immunity or corrupted blood immunity, they're going to actually base it on Flask duration. So you could use an Enkindling Orb again to get a higher level duration, like 80% increased duration, and run a Flask for like 7-8 seconds. But just not regenerate that Flask until the Flask effect is over with. That's fair. If you run Overflowing Chalice, you could basically have permanent immunity, almost permanent immunity. So that's actually really, really cool. That's a good change. I haven't read a single change yet that I disagree with, and I think this is actually a really good direction for the game. Utility Flasks. So utility Flasks are sustainable with enough character damage and clear speed, but there are easy ways. Yeah, so this was a problem that was raised in the sessions that we had with GGG. So yeah, if you're a less powerful character, how do you generate Flasks? So add a new modifier and improved existing modifiers on Flasks that affect the duration or charge gain. Added a new passive to help sustain blast. Pardon me, bloody nose is itching badly tonight. 66% increased charge recovery with 25% reduced effect. That's pretty fair, because that means if you're a slower character, you still get the advantage. You get much faster charge recovery. Even if you're a really powerful character, that's actually really bloody powerful. Extending utility Flask duration. So they're increasing the... Oh my god. 8 seconds. So you can run bloody your Sulfur Flask for 8 seconds, or any of these other flasks. So 8.5 seconds for Bismuth, 6.5. These are really long durations. I actually really like this. This is great. So you could have this and then just run. So basically you can keep Flasks up. Is what they've done. They've just allowed you to keep Flasks up. Oh my god. Why when I'm recording a video? Unique Flasks are being reviewed as a result of these changes. Yeah, so this could break Bottle of Faith. But you can get around that again with Enkindling Orbs, so pretty easy fix. Alright, so even after lowering the power of many unique Flasks still outclass magic Flasks. In addition, the item level of Flasks does not matter at a certain point. I don't disagree. This is a change. So solution: add multiple tiers of most Flask modifiers. At higher levels, Flasks now have a much more powerful effect. Flask modifiers that increase armor evasion now weaker at their first tier, as changes to armor evasion make them more powerful. These changes will allow us to restore some of the power that was removed from Pla. Yeah, so they're just basically backpedaling here, fundamentally. I don't disagree with this change. This is fine. They're giving us more accessibility and longer duration on Flask, so they got to take something away here. But there's a whole list of modifiers: chill immunity, remove curse. So basically linking, similar to how other crafts work, they're linking it to different item levels. So as you get a better drop, you can get better modifiers on your Flask, which is fair if you're farming later tiers of the game or later end game components. So this is fine. Problem: enkindling effect on Flasks aren't impactful enough. Fuck, I thought they were impactful enough. Jesus Christ. This is good. So it can apply 80 to 100% increased duration. That's going to be crazy with the duration increases. So you're going to get Flask running for like 15, 20 seconds with this. 40 to 60 maximum charges, reduce Flask charges used. Up to 80% increased recovery rate. Again, really, really good. Increased effect by 70 up to 70%. It's actually really powerful. Belts are the item slot intended to enhance Flask, but only have a limited number of modifiers. Okay, so they've just added more modifiers for Flasks onto your belt. I can't say I would probably ever use any of these unless I was running a character that was so contingent on Flask, pardon me. But again, they've buffed Flasks up so much that I don't even think that this is relevant or needed, but it's welcome, so I'm not going to disagree with it. I think it's good. Instant recovery Flasks are by far the most reliable, as a total life recovery flask from Flasks is reasonable but spread over a long period of time. To keep the total life recovery from all Flasks the same, but halve the amount of time it takes for this to occur, which doubles their healing per second. This is a huge improvement to how effective non-instant life Flasks are at keeping you alive. So Blood of the Karui is a really good Flask, so what have they done with this? So it's being reviewed as a result. Now has 35 to 50% reduced charge recovery rate. 35 to 50% reduced recovery rate. Yeah. The big advantage of this one is at the end of the Flask effect, you then get your maximum life restored. So this is actually a really good Flask, and even if they slow the pace down, because they're addressing different levels of these crafts and increased recovery rate, like you could craft that onto your belt, or you could enkindling orbit and get increased. Well, I think you can do that with life Flasks. I'm not 100% with Blood of the Karui. I don't think you can do it with Blood of the Karui actually, but because there's so many ways to modify Flasks now with these changes, this is actually not a bad change because you can get around this pretty easily. There are no accessible tools for players to change the charge gain method if gaining charges on kill isn't well suited. So, for example, was a Bone Shatter was a problem with this. Rework the survival jewels available from the Sacred Ground quest to let you gain charges another way while reducing the charges gained from kills. These designs are still, so this is still in work. Rangers don't have a form of life recovery that they excel at, while almost every other core character has a signature special recovery method. Yeah, that's true. Added improved existing passive skills specializing. Okay. So basically, they're adding a new passive skill tree to the Ranger. Okay, that's not bad. Part 1. I wonder what Part 2 is going to have. These are actually really good changes. I'm really excited for these changes. This is going to make survivability significantly easier. Yeah, hats off to GGG for listening to the community. I'll give them that. I don't think this league's going to be a punishing league. I think we're going to see a lot of backpedaling, and we're going to get a lot more enjoyable. I think we're going to go back to a state of the game when it was actually really enjoyable to play. This is a really positive step forward. Anyone who's saying otherwise, you know, they're being overly critical at this stage. But, you know, GGG's trying to get back on track. I think they may have learnt lessons from last league. Let's hope they did, because it'd be nice to get the huge player base that they lost back into the game and pushing it forwards. Anyway, if you like this video, like and sub, and until next time, Have a good one, and bye.